So the purpose of today's session is to share a little bit more about our summer pre-college program that is offered for high school students, that is allowing them to learn more about climate and climate solutions. My name is Laurel Zaima-Sheehy, and I'm the Assistant Director of K-12 and Continuing Education at the Columbia Climate School, and I'm also one of the instructors in the Green Mountains program. I'd also like to introduce the other folks that will be joining us tonight. We will be honored by having Governor Peter Shumlin, the 81st Governor of Vermont from 2011 to 2017, and the former Director of Putney Student Travel. On the Columbia side, we have Martin Dietrich Brauch, the lead researcher at Columbia Center on Sustainable Investment and an instructor in the Green Mountains program. Panjwani is a summer 2024 participant who is going to be sharing her experience in the program and some of her favorite components of the Green Mountains experience. Sylvie Littledale from Putney Student Travel also joins us today. At Putney, Sylvie collaborates with us to run the Green Mountains program, and she manages the application process. And finally, Sarah Wagner, a graduate student in the MA Climate and Society program, will be assisting in monitoring the Q&A. All right, so now I'd like to go through the agenda with you all. We're going to give brief introductions to the organizations behind this effort, which include the Columbia Climate School and Putney Student Travel. We'll provide an in-depth overview of the Columbia Climate School and the Green Mountains program, which includes details about the student experience, key program themes, teaching approaches, insights to Columbia experts leading the program, and an overview of select lessons covered during the experience. We'll provide a glimpse into a day in the life of the Green Mountains student, which is going to highlight the experiences, which include team building and experiential learning activities, engaging debates and simulations that deepen the understanding of climate challenges and solutions, hands-on fieldwork focused on data collection and analysis, excursions showcasing practitioners applying climate solutions in their careers, project-based learning opportunities to drive impact and foster innovation, and fun activities to explore and enjoy Vermont's stunning natural beauty during the summer. Finally, we're going to conclude on program eligibility, application process, and next steps. We will also leave time at the end for Q&A. So at any point in the program, please put your questions in the Q&A box. We will be sure to address them at the end, but feel free to populate them at any point a question pops in your head. All right. So the Columbia Climate School is Columbia University's School of Interdisciplinary Climate Research. It was announced in July 2020, and the Climate School is the first new school at Columbia in over 25 years. The Columbia Climate School's mission is to develop and inspire knowledge-based solutions and educate future leaders for just and prosperous societies on a healthy planet. Columbia University is a global leader in climate and sustainability education and has a longstanding history of earth and environmental science education and research. Our story begins over 70 years ago with the founding of Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, or LDEO. It's located just 20 miles north of New York City on an 189-acre campus overlooking the Hudson River. It's recognized as the #1 scientific institution in the U.S. dedicated to earth and environmental sciences. LDEO has really been at the forefront of groundbreaking climate research. From the very start, Columbia University and Lamont scientists have played pivotal roles in advancing our understanding of climate change. In fact, the term global warming was coined in 1972 by Dr. Wallace Broecker, a renowned Lamont scientist and Columbia University professor of geology. In addition, the Earth Institute was established in 1996. It's Columbia University's largest research institution, and it brings over 750 environmental scientists, policy analysts, engineers, and other experts. As a driving force behind many programs that are now at the Columbia Climate School, the Earth Institute was created to address critical challenges at the intersection of sustainability, climate, natural hazards, and the relationship between human society and the environment. For nearly 3 decades, it's championed evidence-based, research-driven solutions to tackle these complex issues and advance global sustainability. The Climate School is committed to offering interdisciplinary educational opportunities for graduate, undergraduate, and pre-college students, as we recognize that you all are the next generation of change makers and essential stakeholders to address the climate crisis. We really are dedicated to equipping young people with the knowledge and skills and tools to drive solutions forward. And it's not that we want or need everyone to be climate scientists. We really need a diversity of skills and passions and careers, with climate science serving as the underpinning of this work. Our pre-college programs show how Earth processes, climate science, and sustainability can be integrated into any career you choose. A key focus of our pre-college programs is empowering young people to become community leaders. Since meaningful climate action often begins at the local level, we aim to equip future climate activists with tools to mobilize their communities and drive lasting change. Through our partnership with Putney Student Travel, we offer exceptional summer experiences that immerse students in hands-on, in-the-field learning led by Columbia Climate School experts. These programs provide high school students with exclusive access to advanced climate content that's rarely accessible at this level. So since we are joined by Governor Peter Shumlin, I'm going to pass it over to him to share a little bit more about Putney Student Travel's history, mission, and goals.
Thank you, Laurel. I'm honored to be here. And I've got to say that working with Laurel and the team at Columbia Climate School is one of my great joys every year. I'll tell you very briefly a little bit about Putney's history, our collaboration with Columbia, and why I'm so passionate about this program. Putney was founded by my parents 74 years ago. They were World War II. My dad is a World War II vet. His growing up was to be sent off to fight the war at age 17. My mother's Dutch. She grew up in occupied Holland, so obviously they were deeply influenced by the war. They were educators and teachers, professors, and they had this sort of naive view 74 years ago. Let's start building educational programs for high school students in the summertime all over the world, studying, learning, traveling, homestays, language learning, and the rest, and we'll help build world peace and understanding. Today, that's pretty commonplace. Let's remember, in those years, there were no commercial airplanes. You had to go by ship. No iPhones, no telecommunications to speak of. You'd take your young person, 10th, 11th, 12th grader, 9th grader, to the port of New York in June, and you'd see them at the end of August. Anyway, how does this all relate to where we are now? Putney is now an organization, has been for years, that operates out of the same old cow barn in Vermont, packed with dozens and dozens of educators, researchers, teachers, and mostly people who are passionate about educating and really changing students' lives in the summertime, middle and high school students. The history with the Columbia Climate School is as follows. I had the pleasure of serving as, those are my parents, by the way, our founders. But if you go to the next slide, I had the pleasure of serving as Laurel mentioned, as governor of Vermont, the 81st governor here. I served 3 terms. And one of the things that I was passionate about was climate change and the responsibility that I feel all leaders have to leave this planet better than the way we found it. Very briefly, my story with this particular issue is as follows. You know, not everyone realizes that governors have a real job. In my view, unlike folks in Congress who can be a little more relaxed because each of them has less responsibility since they're working with 100 people in the Senate, 400 plus in the House. As governors, there's only 50 of you. Your schools have to be excellent. Your roads have to be plowed and paved and working, and bridges can't collapse. You have to make sure that all the functions of state government work in terms of Department of Motor Vehicles, and we could go on forever, law enforcement, law and order. You become the commander of your National Guard the day that you're elected, military, the list goes on and on. So all the things that one would expect, including having to balance budgets and be smart about fiscal management. But in addition, each of us 50 have a responsibility, in our views, when we take the oath, to ensure that we're working to preserve and protect future generations of our state, that we leave it better than we found it. So I ran on the platform that if you elected me governor, I was going to do everything I knew how to get off of coal, oil, and carbon producing energy and move to two things: renewables like you've never seen before, wind, solar, battery power storage, working with our utilities. And the second was energy efficiency, finding ways to use, in a cold state, by the way, to use less power, less juice to ensure a healthy planet. I won't bore you with all the details, except to say, when I was done serving 3 terms, we had become the #1 solar state in America, according to the Union of Concerned Scientists. We doubled solar by 11 times, wind by 22 times. We'd made huge progress in energy efficiency, and we really became an example for how small states can transform from dirty power and dirty energy to clean energy, moving towards our goal of being 95% renewable by 2050. As a result, the President of the United States invited myself and 2 other governors who've done a lot of work with renewables to help with the Paris Climate Accord and help push that through. And we really felt pretty good about what we'd accomplished. I guess if you go to the next slide, this is a slide of me signing the bill that gave me the authority to implement the promises that I'd made to Vermonters about what we would do on renewable energy. Anyway, short version, let's look at where we are. That was now almost 10 years ago. Well, actually, it was 16 years ago when I was sworn in. And we've only moved backwards. So look at where we are. The planet is burning up. Look at our friends in Los Angeles right now going through absolutely a horrific challenge, all related to climate. We know that the carbon that we emitted 20 to 30 years ago is causing the challenges that we're facing right now. Looking forward, we are running out of time. We know that China, India, who were running around on bicycles, frankly, 30 and 40 years ago, we haven't yet experienced the effects of the carbon that they've been emitting, not to mention our continuation of emitting lots of carbon. And we have to move very quickly. I had the pleasure, as one of the directors of Putney, of having the Columbia Climate School reach out to us quite a long time ago now, it seems, Laurel, to say, listen, we're really excited about, at Columbia University, devoting our energy not only to undergraduate and graduate students, but to middle and high school students, because we know that that is the generation that we need to give the knowledge to, the background, the technology, the innovation, and the inspiration to dedicate some portion of their life to the most important challenge facing humanity. We would love to use Vermont as a laboratory, because there we can bring up our professors and our extraordinary resources at Columbia Climate School and use Vermont as a laboratory to see how you connect the need to move with actual outcomes, combination of industry, innovators, and state government to get results. So that's how we banded together. It is one of the programs that I am most excited about in my many, many years of being an educator. And the simple reason for that is what you know very well. The next generation is the first generation born to this planet who has the opportunity, and it's a huge opportunity, but also the responsibility to ensure that we move very quickly with everything that we know how to have a livable planet going forward. So I've been a part of this program each summer. It is absolutely extraordinary. I can't tell you how much respect I have for the Columbia Climate School and for any student who's willing to come to this program, get the knowledge you need, continue to be, we hope, inspired about dedicating some portion of your life to this future endeavor and ensuring that we make progress quickly before it's too late. So delighted to be with you. That's a little bit about how we came together. I'll turn it back over to Laurel and the team. I just want to say I'm passionate about this program. Anytime that you wish to speak with me, call me. I can tell you more about why I'm so passionate. We're looking for the right students who have the enthusiasm, the intellect, and the inspiration to join up and get all the knowledge you can while you can because this is a huge challenge, but most importantly, a huge opportunity. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be with you. And thanks for letting me talk a little bit about why Putney is so excited about this collaboration with Columbia Climate School. Thanks, Laurel.
Thank you so much for joining us, Governor Shumlin. Couldn't agree more. The message is really clear. We need everyone to be a part of the climate movement, especially young people, and that's why this program exists. And the partnership that we have with Putney Student Travel allows us to really equip young people with these exact skills that they need to leave the program and drive that positive change forward long after the program's over to really be a part of positive change making. So the Columbia Climate School in the Green Mountains is a campus-based program. It's hosted at Vermont State University's picturesque 165-acre campus. The students of the Green Mountains program will be joined by a cohort of like-minded students from across the country and the world. As I mentioned, we have an incredible international student body, and they get the opportunity to collaborate together to gain an understanding of the multifaceted aspects of climate change, to learn about the individual roles in climate action, and engage in meaningful conversations about taking action in your own communities. You might be asking why the program is held in Vermont. Well, as Governor Shumlin just shared, we feel that Vermont is the perfect classroom or laboratory to really see and understand climate science, technology, and policy, and how this is all applied to real life. We have also seen that Vermont is a leader in the US for green energy and is showing the country how one state can really move the needle in the right direction. And I think that is a huge focus going forward, is the local actions of your municipal and state governments, and pushing forward a lot of climate action on that level. In addition, Putney Student Travel is very well connected in their home state of Vermont, and these Green Mountain students have the opportunity to connect with the diverse network of sustainability practitioners and learn about the on-the-ground solutions being employed in Vermont through this expansive network. So students will also be able to experience all that Vermont has to offer by exploring the local area and immersing themselves in the natural beauty of the Green Mountains. This is, we've been offering this summer since summer 2021. The dates for summer 2025 are June 29th through July 11th. So it's a 13-day, 12-night program. The fee is $6,890, and that is an all-inclusive fee that covers accommodation, meals, program activities, field excursions, weekend trips, and transportation during the program. This is a pre-college program designed for students grades 9th through 12th, and we also consider motivated rising 9th graders. All right, so now we're going to share a mini documentary of the program from last summer, so you can really step into the shoes of a Green Mountain student.
About the water crisis, especially in Arizona right now and Mexico, because like parts of Mexico I've recently had to state that they're literally like out of water in the city, and then to actually physically be here and like talk with people who are actually trying to come up with solutions and working in the fields, it's like really cool, and to see the effects of like seeing how clear it is here.
Each year we have 60 to 80 students that join our program, and we break them into smaller learning cohorts so they have an ability to work in small groups on activities and also have smaller group or one-on-one discussions with experts. One of the incredible things about this program is that we have students that come from all over the United States and the world. So this year we have students representing 6 different countries, and this program lasts for 2 weeks in Vermont. And that just really is a wonderful opportunity for students to conduct field work and to learn from the environment directly. We find that being outdoors is the best laboratory, and Vermont is the perfect place for that. Oh my God.
participate in the climate science program because our family, we do have discussions about climate change a lot. And I wanted to do it because, when you look around outside and you hear about other tribes that we're so displaced now. And all of our homelands, they're gone, unless it's a reserve. And I really wanted to come here so I could learn more because it's for youth, what we as a people can do. And it's something that I can introduce to my family when I get home.
Across the 2 weeks, students learn from 6 different Columbia Climate School experts on a variety of climate topics. Everything from the science of climate change to thinking about how to build resilience in communities, how to communicate about climate change, policy, economics, and ultimately solutions. We also want to encourage students to learn how to debate with each other, how to do collaborative activities. And a lot of high school students don't have opportunities to engage in field work, so we have a lot of opportunities for them to go out into the field, collect samples, analyze these samples, so then they're kind of building their own scientific background and skill sets that will prepare them for college as well. We also visit Lake George to learn from the Darren Freshwater Institute, and they're doing research locally in Lake George, but also globally around climate.
Nature has just always been a big part of my life, I'm named Precious Jade. It's what Chalchiwiti means. All my family, we all are tied to nature and what life is. But I think it's really cool that they are actively trying to come up with solutions and stuff. I think that's a really important part of actually seeing something done. It gives me hope and gives me inspiration.
We're joined by one of the 2024 participants. Anna's here, and she's going to be sharing a little bit about your time in the program. So thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hi everyone, I'm so excited to be here.
So first, do you want to introduce yourself, your grade, the school, and where you live?
Yeah, so my name is Anna Panjwani. I'm a sophomore, a 10th grader at James Madison High School, and I live in Vienna, Virginia, which is in the Washington, D.C. metro area.
Awesome. And Anna, when you were, there's a lot of opportunities that you could look at over the summer. What inspired
Yeah.
you to apply to this program in particular?
So before this program, I've always been passionate about the environment and wanting to create a change. And before I joined, I knew a very focused small speck of the program, which was that obviously climate change is bad and they're caused by greenhouse gas emissions. But there was a lot that I didn't know, and I really wanted to be able to make an impact. So that really inspired me to join.
Awesome. We have 6 different experts that join on the program. So you're learning about a whole lot of different topics and the different intersections of climate and different aspects of our society. What were some of the things that you enjoyed most learning about, and what were some of the most pivotal moments of skills where you were just gaining new tools in your toolkit to drive change forward down the line?
Yeah, I mean, I think I could talk about this program for hours because it was so special. But if I were to condense it down, I think one of the most special things about this program is that what you get from it, and when you leave this program, when I left it, I came out as someone who had a whole new or arenal of knowledge that of all the different pathways and sectors that I could take with sustainability and climate science, so I knew where I could actually make a difference. And for those of you watching, but I spoke a little bit about how before I came to the program, I knew a very focused spec. And when I talked to my peers too, who also are passionate about climate change, we all kind of have this similar view where we were very passionate, but it felt very isolated, and it almost was like we were like fishes in a fish tank where we thought there wasn't that much we could do about it, and it felt isolated and there wasn't a lot to know. But then after the program and learning from Dr. Josh DaVincenzo and Mr. Martin Brauch, who you're going to hear from, and Laurel and Professor Sandra Goldmark. And we also we had so many hands-on experiences. We got to meet sustainable farmers and artists and venture capitalists. After learning about how broad this field is and how many opportunities there are right now, it felt like that fish tank had kind of just burst open. And there was this whole ocean of opportunities now to create a positive impact. And to give some examples, um, if you're really into science, we did so many hands-on labs and experiences with Laurel, and or if you're interested in law, we learned about international investment law. Even on the business and economic side, we had multiple lectures about the circular economy, which is this whole new sector of economics that has the potential to change the world. And we learned about climate communication. If you're into humanities, or if you're a STEM person or a finance person, we got to connect with different venture capitalists, and there's so much more. Even for politics, we got to meet and listen to the insights of the former governor of Vermont who you just met. It's so incredible, and you get to connect with all these different experts and find that you're not isolated in this kind of fish tank anymore, because there's a whole community working towards change. And it's a formula really where that you can take what you're interested in and apply it to what you learn at the program and create a positive impact. And this program is that tool that kind of gives you the ability to do that, which is so amazing.
And I love that analogy that you gave about the fish tank, but really climate work, especially climate solutions, there are an ocean of opportunities. And I think that's one of the misconceptions that people have, is that if you're focused on climate, then you're focused on climate science only, because
Yeah.
climate is a science problem, but it's very, very much not. It is extremely interdisciplinary. And I think that's the point, is like, we really need solutions in every aspect of our lives. You mentioned politics and law, and you talked about sustainable farming and how art can be a communicator to engage people in better understanding some of these challenges. I mean, really, every aspect of our lives could include a climate solution. So thank you so much for really diving on that and hitting that point, because I think that's one of the key takeaways that we want students to have in this program.
Yeah.
I also wanted to ask, so we have a lot of fun too. It's an academic program, but we ensure that we're learning in different styles, or doing different excursions. We're doing fun activities to explore Vermont. Were there any activities that we did? Maybe you could give an example of an academic one, and then also a more recreational one that were your favorites in the program.
Oh, definitely. I think starting with academic, we got to go all the way to Burlington, and we got to visit their energy department and see all these different vehicles and programs they have and initiatives Burlington has. And it's one of the most energy efficient cities in the country. So it was so cool being able to see that hands-on. And then we also got to explore the city. And by that time, we had made so many friends, and it was like a Columbia Green Mountains family. So it was just such a cool experience. And then on the more recreational hands-on part, we got to look at tree cores, which was so cool. And we got to pick out the tree cores ourselves and then examine them ourselves. And it was just very exciting to be. It's not you're just sitting down all day. You're there, you're doing it, it's happening. It's so cool.
That's so great. I love that you highlighted one of the excursions that we go on, as well as some of the field work. We don't do research projects per se, but we collect data and analyze data, and that allows us to better understand the current and past conditions of the environment that we're in. So we'll talk a little bit more about tree cores for folks that don't may not understand that tree cores are like a time capsule to tell us about past climate. But those activities are also really great, because I think it's preparing you for maybe some of the labs and the fieldwork that you'd engage in college. So I'm glad that those are some of your most fun activities, because they are for me as well. And
Yeah, most definitely.
I also, just because it's on the screen right now, I see you're playing the guitar. You're doing a
Yes.
duet. Do you want to talk a little bit about that moment?
Oh yeah, so a couple of times throughout the program, we do bonfires and it's a whole community. So every evening there's a different activity. My personal favorites though were the bonfires. Sometimes we did baking with like stuff we had picked from the sustainable farms. But this time we had done a bonfire and that's actually Dr. Josh and he came to present to us and teach us about climate communication. And then at the end during the bonfire, we actually both play the guitar. And so throughout the whole night, everyone was switching through the guitars and playing, and we did a duet to Riptide together, which is so much fun, and everyone was singing along. I have videos too that I'll always cherish.
I think that's also really special because you're learning from all of us as experts, but we also want to learn from you and spend time with you all. And so a lot of the Columbia faculty and educators and staff will join for these activities just to get to know you all better as well and kind of make that like networking but in a more fun way as well. So that was one of my favorite moments.
Yeah.
Okay, so we also focused on the climate action project. So project-based learning is a huge component of this program. Would you mind sharing a little bit about your climate action project and kind of the process that you took to create it and where you are now?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I talked a little bit earlier about how you kind of learn this formula with the program where you take what you're interested in and then apply it to what you learn and the opportunities you get from the program, and you can create such a positive impact. And for me, I'm very interested in finance and economics, and I'm a writer. I love to write. I do journalism. So, for a little bit of context for everyone watching, right now there are dozens of financial incentives out there provided by the government and the state and local energy companies where you can actually save a lot of money by going green instead of not going green in certain appliances or technologies. For example, if my dishwasher broke down, I could spend less and save money by buying a green energy efficient dishwasher instead of one that's non-green, which is so incredible. And throughout the program, this one act, the Inflation Reduction Act, got brought up a lot, and I think both Laurel and Martin brought it up, and they talked about how there was a lot of different incentives it offered. And at the end of the program, you get a day and some other periods too, where it's really just a brainstorm session, and you get to bounce ideas back and forth with all the different professionals. Laurel is there. We have all of our facilitators who are also experienced in climate science and the professors, and then you also have all your um, students around you too who are kind of a community as well, and you bounce ideas back and forth. Like for context, my first two project ideas immediately rejected. They were just not manageable, and that's the coolest part though, because you get live feedback right there by people who are actually experienced and have a lot of knowledge about this, so you're set up in the right way where you can actually make a change. And the project that I settled with and love, it's my baby. It's called Save Money, Reduce Emissions, and it's a clear and concise website that takes all this complex information from around the web and puts it all right at your fingertips. So whether you just turned 16 and you're about to get your license and you're looking into getting a car and how you can save money doing that instead by getting an electric car instead of a gas car, or you're my 70-year-old neighbor who goes on his email maybe once every 2 weeks and your water heater just went out and you want to go green, but you don't have the time to just sit and scroll through lots of legislation that can be very overwhelming. So, the mission of this website is to make it accessible so everyone has the opportunity to leverage it. And it's very exciting because the Save Money, Reduce Emissions website is going live at the end of this month. And I've been working with my local sustainability commission and the local newspapers and online news about really spreading the word. On top of that, I mentioned I'm a writer, so there'll be a blog and a newsletter because we have a new governing party coming in, which means that there'll be some positive and negative changes. And the climate industry is always changing as well. It's like there's a new announcement every 2 weeks. And I know for Virginia, at least, um, the Senate just went in, so I was talking to my local delegate. There's a lot of new climate bills coming out. So there'll be, just to keep everyone updated with all these changes, there will be a blog because the main purpose is to make sure that everyone knows that I think a lot of the times change doesn't happen because people are scared of sacrifice, but you don't have to sacrifice. You can save money and reduce emissions at the same time, and it's a happy world. And there's a lot of progress that's been made and a lot of exciting updates that are coming soon in the next weeks and months and years.
Incredible. Anna, I am so excited to hear that your website's going live. Also, you're going to be joining us for a Climate Live K-12 series.
Yes.
You're going to take a bit of a deeper dive into your climate action project and this website and how to use it. So this is a plug for anyone watching today who wants to learn more.
Yes.
Please join.
Yes, it'll be in April, and by then, much more will have happened, and I have so much to share, and it's so exciting.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been so fun. Any last minute things that you want to share for someone who's interested in the program? Like, what advice would you give them that maybe you wish someone had given you?
Let me think. I think mainly just if you do this program, which it's amazing. Soak up every moment and take every moment to the fullest. Like when you meet all these different professionals, talk to them, ask them questions, learn from the hands on experience, and really absorb it all. Because even now, I'm still referring back to the stuff I learned in June and July from that program. And I think I can definitely see myself continuing to use that knowledge and learn more and investigate more because it really was so valuable.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. If anyone has questions for Anna, you can use the Q&A. She'll be here until the end and we'll be able to answer them. But thank you so much for sharing about your experience. And I'm really excited for you and all that's to come.
Yes, of course.
Awesome. Okay, so we are going to move on to the next slide. So for the program themes, this is a pre-college program. We do place a strong emphasis on academics. Each program or each summer, the program content will vary based on the feedback that we've received from past participants. So the summer themes that we focused on from last year include the science of climate change, which focuses on the greenhouse effect, introductions to the physics of Earth's temperature, natural variability versus anthropogenic change, and climate projections and modeling. Climate impacts, which talks about global processes like sea level rise, glacial melt, and average global temperature increase versus local impacts, which vary geographically, which impact local ecosystems, economies, and communities. Climate preparedness and resilience focuses on preparedness and risk, recovery and planning, mitigation and adaptation. International climate policies and negotiations talk about sustainable development goals in the Paris Agreement, United Nations climate change negotiations, and global governance and international law. Decarbonization pathways and the energy transition will focus on how we're monitoring and measuring progress, the transition strategies to shift from fossil fuels to renewables. We focus on climate justice, which talks about the disproportionate impacts of climate change and equity and inclusivity in developing climate solutions. Sustainability and the circular economy talk about the consumerism and throwaway culture, building a value chain, new economic models and circular systems, and how to achieve sustainable business practices. Climate change communication and conversation talks about effective messaging on how to convey climate information, and applied solutions in action focus on learning from sustainability practitioners about the implementation of sustainable practices and translating concepts into practical real-world applications. And finally, climate solutions and collective action. So we'll talk a lot about local community initiatives, strategic inclusion of stakeholders, and the role of young people and how they can take action. In addition, I just want to mention, we also have a lot of field-based sampling and analysis that is incorporated into the curriculum. So this really helps students to understand the current ecosystem conditions and how to monitor changes over time. And so they'll have a chance to collect climate proxy samples from trees to also understand past climate. So on the program, we have 6 Columbia Climate School experts that lead lessons and activities for the Green Mountains program. The experts are leaders in a variety of sectors that include climate science, social science, sustainability, finance, and policy. And today, moving to the next slide, we are joined by Martin Dietrich Brauch. So I'll let Martin share a little bit about himself, his background, and the lessons that he will be teaching.
Thank you so much, Laurel, and it's very nice to be with all of you here and to hear the wonderful updates from Anna since last summer. I'm very excited. I just wish we could keep listening to Anna's experience and learnings from last year, and hopefully motivating many of you who are listening to participate in this wonderful program. So I'm an economist and a lawyer. I'm based here in New York, but I'm originally from Brazil. I specialize in environmental law. I have a master's in international law, and I work at a Columbia Center called Columbia Center on Sustainable Investment, CCSI, here at Columbia Climate School and the law school. And I teach 4 sessions in this program. 2025 will be my 4th summer participating as an instructor in the Green Mountains program. I'm also very passionate about it for the various reasons that were presented before. You know, first of all, the campus offers this beautiful environment. It's so inspirational to think about and learn about nature and the climate. And the program structure itself has such an open, welcoming, and informal learning atmosphere for all students to learn not only from us lecturers and the Putney student travel facilitators, but also from each other, and sharing experiences, sharing ideas, and about how they've been going about in their communities, in their families, to raise awareness about climate change and leading advocacy campaigns, taking climate action, as the example that Anna was just presenting illustrates so well. Academically, I think it's also a wonderful opportunity for everyone to learn from different perspectives from various disciplines. So it's beyond science. It's also policy, economics, diplomacy, political science. And it's really at a level that you as pre-college student can easily follow, and will also help shape your academic career, shape your professional future, whatever path you may choose to follow after all. So thank you so much for the opportunity to participate again.
Thanks, Martin. Martin's going to come back and share a little bit about his session in a few slides, but thanks for sharing about your experience and your background. The next expert that we have joining us is Laurel DeSera. Laurel teaches the climate science primer and also the science of climate change lesson. So Laurel, her research expertise is actually on how mosquito-borne diseases are impacted by climate, and she focuses on assessing and improving subseasonal to seasonal forecasts and how these models can be used by decision makers to improve the livelihoods of their constituents. Miriam Nelson co-teaches with Laurel on the climate science primer and also teaches climate modeling and projections. Miriam is, as Laurel is, a doctorate student at Columbia University, but Miriam also has a joint appointment with NASA Goddard Institute for Space Studies. And she's really interested in how severe hazards will change under warming and vulnerability of people and ecosystems to these changes. So Miriam works with large-scale climate data sets and modeling simulations to investigate regional climate and ecosystem dynamics. Josh DiVincenzo is at the National Center for Disaster Preparedness at the Columbia Climate School. He focuses on developing learning experiences associated with FEMA training projects that navigate housing and economic recovery. So Josh teaches preparedness tools and strategies. He also teaches climate change communication and conversation. So how do we open up the conversation with different audiences about this subject? Sandra Goldmark Sandra wears many hats. She is an associate professor of professional practice at the Department of Theater at Barnard. She also is the director of campus sustainability and climate action at Barnard. And she is at the climate school, leading the Office of Interdisciplinary Engagement. So Sandra has a very unique background in that you heard that it started with theater, and in the theater industry, Sandra saw so much waste after each production. All the sets, the costume at the end of the show it all was going in the trash. And she felt like there must be a better way to reuse these materials as opposed to this industry being so wasteful. And that really led her to do a deep dive in the circular economy. Sandra now is a leader in teaching and understanding circular economies. So she teaches a 3-session lesson on circular economy and empowering students to think about how to make our systems and products go from linear to circular. And finally, I will be teaching on the program as well. I have a background in sustainability science and as well as marine science, but I have been working with young people, teachers, and professional learners to teach them about various environmental science topics such as sustainability, climate science and impacts, sea level rise, and ultimately how to drive climate solutions forward and climate advocacy. So I will be teaching about the climate impacts lesson, which is climate change in your community, climate action lesson, and empowering youth for change. So I'm very excited to be working with you all. All right, there are a variety of different learning modalities and purposeful activities and immersive experiences that we incorporate into this program. This includes speaker series, team building, and project-based learning opportunities. We create small learning environments so students can engage in debates and simulations that really help to deepen their understanding of climate challenges. We have different excursions that allow us to network and speak to practitioners that are incorporating these climate solutions into their work. We have hands-on field work that focuses on data collection and analysis, and the Climate Action Project. This piece is really where the students get to incorporate their skills, their passions, and all that they have learned on the program into a project that will allow them to bring solutions back home with them. So the work doesn't end when the program's over, that you are intended to continue to drive change forward and include and invite other people into your project to be a part of the climate movement as well. So we wanted to give you a sneak peek of some of these lessons, but we also want to give time for the Q&A. So we'll just give you a few lessons as a snapshot. The first is the Climate Science Primer. So this is taught by Miriam and Laurel, as I mentioned. This primer is just to ensure that everyone has this foundational understanding to build upon throughout the 2-week program. So we'll talk about some of the differences between weather and climate. What are the different types of climate classifications, climate's influence on society, and the function of radiation and greenhouse gases. And Sarah, for the sake of time, we'll move to the next slide and move past the video. Perfect. The preparedness tools and strategies lesson led by Josh is a fast-paced activity that facilitates an understanding of the emergency notification process of a county government during or after the remains of a natural disaster. And this activity really does simulate a real-life scenario at a government call center. So students are experiencing some of the challenges that might be encountered by these groups, but also how to collaboratively think towards solutions. And I want to give Martin the opportunity to share a little bit about his decarbonization pathways lesson. So I'll invite him to rejoin and share about that.
Thank you, Laurel. And very briefly, just to give you a quick sneak peek, the session on decarbonization pathways essentially focuses on how to decarbonize the global energy system. We have to recall that 75% of global greenhouse gas emissions that cause climate change globally come from the energy sector. So it's crucial to discuss how to decarbonize this sector, how we generate the electricity that we use, how we produce energy for our transportations, for our building, cooling, or heating, and so on and so forth. So in this session, we look into pathways to decarbonize the energy sector, especially by the International Energy Agency, the International Renewable Energy Agency, and other institutions that have been modeling how this can happen. We examine these pathways and the issues that arise from implementing these pathways to decarbonization from an interdisciplinary perspective. So we look at the intersection of economics and law and policy and technology, And the session mostly focuses on the role of key pillars of the decarbonization of this global energy system. So we look, for example, into energy efficiency measures that can be adopted, how electrification can be used to replace the use of fossil fuels in various end uses of energy, and how we can increase the presence of renewable energy systems or renewable energy in the energy system, solar, wind, hydro, other renewable energy generation technologies, but along with storage technologies. And then we also look at challenges and solutions to decarbonize the so-called hard to abate industrial sectors, including steel, cement, aluminum, heavy-duty transportation, aviation, shipping. And one key element of this session that students tend to like is that we do a dynamic exercise afterwards in rotating stations. I don't want to give out too much of it. You have to join us to find out how it goes, but you get an opportunity to see the challenges and the opportunities that there are to decarbonize energy systems from different perspectives, including government at national level or local level, from the point of view of fossil fuel companies, steel companies, other companies that are energy intensive, and really develop realistic, actionable strategic plan for your organization or your government to achieve net zero by 2050, and then discuss with other students and validate that plan with others and see what others think. So it's generally an exercise that students enjoy and learn a lot from. Back to you, Laurel.
Thanks, Martin. And I'll talk briefly about climate negotiations. So the students then take all they learned to apply it to a climate negotiation where it's a role-playing game. It's premised on an international climate summit. And Martin actually was a youth delegate joining one of these COP negotiations. And so from his perspective as a young person attending one of these conferences, his perspective is really valuable to help them think about how the negotiations roll out in real time. Martin, did you want to add a little bit about your experience?
I just got to say that if students tend to enjoy the exercising rotating station and the rotating stations and the decarbonization pathways exercise, this one on climate negotiations is probably the highlight of the COP, if the others can excuse me for saying this. I'm not even the one leading the facilitation here, but students really enjoy this simulated COP negotiation, or UN, United Nations climate change negotiations, where they play wear different hats of the different stakeholders that influence the negotiations, the high income developed countries, the lower income developing countries, the media, the civil society groups that engage in these negotiations, the industry lobby that engages often in a perverse way in these negotiations. So it's an opportunity for students to have a bit of a taste of how these negotiations happen at an international level. I, as Laurel was mentioning, had the opportunity to sit in quite a few of these conferences as a youth delegate for my home country, Brazil, as I was a teenager, some 3 or 4 years ago, let's say. It's a bit longer, but let's just pretend. And it's really a career and life-shaping opportunity to be able to learn about that and to look into the diplomacy and the complexity also that solving the climate crisis has taken, and really experience this challenge and think about the solutions from that angle as well. So getting this exposure early on from experience, I can say, can be very formative and super interesting and fun as well to learn from others.
Thanks, Martin. Unfortunately, we don't have time to share the video, but it really does highlight how intense some of these debates roll out. But yeah, it is a great activity that students really enjoy. The next series of lessons I wanted to mention briefly is the circular economy lessons taught by Sandra Goldmark. So these are really presenting the core concepts of circular economy. And then there's a group activity where students have to critically think and strategically implement a a project where a product or a system that is currently linear and wasteful is transformed to be circular. So that is a really enjoyable series of lessons as well. And we also do the field-based activities that I mentioned that really help students to gain some of the fieldwork skills that they might be a part of their college career and beyond. So the first one is we did a biological and water chemistry survey of a nearby water body. This helps us to understand the current conditions of this ecosystem, but with long-term tracking of at least 30 years or more, we'll be able to see changes over time due to climate. And the students are collecting data that is contributing toward that data set, which is really valuable. The next is a macroinvertebrate stream assessment survey, where we're looking at these tiny water bugs, these aquatic bugs, but based on the hardiness or tolerances of the species to different water quality cleanlinesses, it can tell us about the water quality of this current stream. So they're a good proxy for water quality. We also collect tree rings. So tree rings, as I mentioned earlier, are time capsules into past climate. And so we are able to take a small core from a tree to be able to look at the past growth rates of a tree, which can tell us a little bit about, the climate in terms of the weather and of each growing season for that tree. So these are processes that we have learned and are applying to the program from Vermont Doherty Earth Observatory's Dendrochronology Lab, which is really fun. We also take an excursion to the Darien Freshwater Institute on Lake George, which is an opportunity for students to learn from other researchers about how climate is impacting this region, particularly the aquatic environment of Lake George. Another excursion we take that you heard from Anna is that we go to Burlington, Vermont. This is an opportunity for us to hear from different experts that are implementing sustainability in their work. We visit the Burlington Electric plant, which is the first U.S. city to source 100% of its electricity from renewable sources. So we get a chance to hear from experts about how they are able to do that and how they encourage the community to be involved in energy saving approaches as well. The program also includes exciting activities that allow students to explore the beauty of Vermont. So we go hiking and berry picking. We get to interact with alpacas. We visit a sustainable farm, stargazing, roast s'mores by the bonfire. We have a lot of fun. As Anna said, we build a Green Mountains family. This community becomes very close. And so we have a great time exploring Vermont as well. Project-based learning is really the key. This is the goal of the program, is for students to create this deliverable at the end to drive positive change home once they leave the program. So they create a climate action plan to address one climate challenge their community faces, and the solutions can be focused on adaptation or mitigation. And we had the pleasure of hearing about Anna's climate action project as an example. And again, I encourage you to join the Climate Live session to hear a little bit more about her website and how she was able to create it. All right, so I'm going to now pass it over to Sylvie to share about application and next steps.
Hi everyone, thank you, Laurel. It's really great to be here. I'm glad to be able to talk to you about this program. We're really excited about it. So to apply for the Columbia in the Green Mountains program, please visit our website and follow the link to fill out an application. Eligible students are completing 9th through 12th grade. We also consider motivated rising 9th graders as well. Your application is considered through a selective application process with rolling admissions, where you are asked to submit a statement of interest. So we ask you to tell us why you're interested in joining the program, in addition to 2 teacher references. You'll be asked to complete an agreement form and to hold space on the program by submitting a $700 deposit. That's comprised of a $200 application fee and a $500 deposit on tuition. We are always available to answer any questions, so we encourage you to please reach out to us if you do have any questions throughout the application process. In addition to that, we are really excited to be offering full and partial need-based scholarships to attend the program for students residing in the US. To apply for the scholarship, students should meet the general admission eligibility requirements, which I just mentioned. But in addition to that, The application, you'll find it on a separate page of the website. We do not ask you to submit a standard application. In addition to this, it serves as your full application. We'll be asking you to respond to 2 prompts on the scholarship application and submit 2 teacher references, in addition to financial information for your household. All of that is described in detail on the website. Scholarship applications are due on March 15th, 2025. So please reach out to us if you have any questions about that. I'll turn it back over to Laurel and we can start our Q&A session. So we'd love to hear more from you and talk to you more about the program.
Thanks, Sylvie. And I apologize in advance for going a little over 5 o'clock time, but we did want to give a chance for any questions that you may have. Martin and Anna are still here with us, so if you have any questions for our amazing speakers, please feel free to populate those in the Q&A. We do have one question that I think I would like to just clarify. So someone asked that I think you mentioned 6 programs that students would learn throughout the summer. What were these 6 categories? And I just want to clarify that we hit on more than 6 categories, but we have 6 Columbia Climate School experts that joined the program. We have and that's not the limit of the expertise for sure. We go on excursions and we get to meet with practitioners that are working in the field, the experts at Burlington Electric. Last year, actually one of Martin's colleagues from CCSI was in Burlington, and so she was able to join us on a panel to share a little bit more about climate finance. We had another Columbia expert on climate finance that joined us. So we like to integrate many different experts, but we have 6 experts that join for lessons and activities on campus, I should say. Thank you for that question. If there are any other questions, we would love to take them now. Oh, great. Someone asked, how many students are accepted into the program, and what is your acceptance rate based on previous years? Great question. We have a cohort of about 60 to 80 students each summer. We do, as I mentioned earlier, ensure that we have smaller learning cohorts. So students have the opportunity to be in small class sizes, speak with experts directly, network, and have the opportunity to chat with them in office hours or during some of the afternoon activities. So of the, let's say, 80 students, they're broken out into smaller groups that we call biomes. So they move in their biomes to different lectures, and then we sometimes combine biomes, and then sometimes we have activities that include all the students. And we find that really important because we want small learning communities, but we also want students to be able to learn from each other, because the perspectives and the expertise that each student has from their lived experiences is very valuable. To the acceptance rate, we do have students that are very high achieving and motivated that apply to the program. So it is a very competitive program. I am unable to give you exact acceptance rates based on previous years, but I will say it's competitive, and the students are self-selecting in terms of being really focused and committed to their learning journey in climate, as well as taking climate action. Okay, someone asked, can you please speak to the housing situation and food? Maybe I'll let Sylvie take that one a little bit about the logistics.
Sure, absolutely. So for housing, we have our students and faculty and staff on the program all housed in campus dorms. So this is actually one of our favorite parts of the program, because it gives students the university feel. You get a chance to feel what it's like to be on a university campus, to be a student, to have a roommate. And we take our meals almost entirely on campus in the cafeteria. So you'll get into the rhythm of being on campus. We really get to make that space feel like home. Students are housed in doubles and triples on the program. And so that is the majority of where we are. We always sleep on campus. So we spend all of our nights on campus in those dorm rooms. We do, on our excursions, have the opportunity to take some meals out at different restaurants. We have a few days that we might do a cookout or bring a picnic lunch, something like that. Just to be clear, we can accommodate any dietary restrictions or preferences on campus. We work really closely with staff in the cafeteria there, and they always have options for any and all dietary needs.
Sylvie, we have a fun question here about the macroinvertebrate survey that we do in the creek. So I'm happy to answer this one. The question was, I'm wondering under what circumstances one would need to use water bugs as a proxy for water quality. If you're assessing the bugs, couldn't you also just assess the water quality itself? So great question. The challenges with measuring water quality directly would oftentimes require chemicals. And so in an environment where you don't want to use chemicals, maybe you don't have access to some of these chemicals or kits or equipment, the ability to sample bugs living in the water is a great, relatively non-invasive way to understand the water quality of a creek through these water bugs as a proxy. And the cool thing about this protocol is that it is something that's used widely. I know all across the country they use this protocol, and perhaps the rest of the world, because it's relatively easy, low equipment, it doesn't require any chemicals, and it's a great way to encourage the community to be involved in better understanding ecosystem health. So it's a fun fact, like damselflies, for example, that are flying bugs, start their life as aquatic macroinvertebrates, and they are relatively sensitive species. So if we find damselflies in the water, then that might be one indicator that the water quality is pretty healthy in this area. Of course, you want great diversity with lots of sensitive species, but that's just one example. Awesome. Okay. Of course, we could talk all day about this program and all day about the fun activities that we do, but we are reaching our time limit today. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for the amazing questions, and especially thank you to our guest speakers, Governor Peter Shumlin, Anna Panjwani, and Martin Dietrich Brauch. It has been such a pleasure spending the last hour chatting about this program that we love so much. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us. We are always available to chat with you. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Hope to see you this summer.